It is 9:06. Good morning. I'm Pamela Furr. Glad to have you on board today on this Wednesday, March the 29th. As we come on the air right now, CNN is on here in the studio. And sure enough, they're going after Andy Ogles for his statements about going after mental health and not the guns. Republicans blame mental health after shooting, not guns. Well, of course, that's the headline from CNN. Of course, Republicans are blaming other issues other than the guns because it wasn't the gun. It was the person using the gun. I don't have to tell you that. And sometimes it feels like you're beating your head against the wall when you try to explain that to people who will not hear you, people who are not listening. They just want to talk. They just want to blame. And they want to point fingers at somebody who is not themselves. That is where I stand on that. Now, I have to tell you, we're going to dive a little bit, though, on or into the mental health side. And I know that there are those on the liberal side that are saying, what about those red flag laws? What about the red flag laws? Well, what about them? I do believe we have to figure out a way to keep guns out of the hands of people who are mentally unstable. How do we do that and maintain the integrity of the Second Amendment? That's the question. How do we do that and still allow law-abiding, God-fearing, red-blooded Americans to keep their Second Amendment right? That's how you have to juggle it, but you have to have these conversations. It is worth discussing to try to figure out how to fix this. And I don't know what the answer is, because if you just blanketly say those with mental health issues should not be able to purchase a gun, then you are absolutely discounting a lot of people that have no inclination, no idea, no thoughts of killing other people. And I'm talking about police officers who go through mental health counseling when something like what happened on Monday happened, or when they've seen way too much carnage in car accidents or gangbang incidents, or, I can go on down the list. Our police officers and first responders are always going through mental health care because of the awful things they see every single day. Look, your first responders, you know this, right? Your first responders and your police officers see humankind at their worst. Not at their best, at their worst. Whether that's from an emotional standpoint, or they're angry, they're ticked off at the world, or they've been in an accident and they've been, the victim has been decapitated from the car accident. I can describe really horrific things that these first responders and police officers see all the time. So they go through mental health counseling to make sure they're processing it all in a healthy, if you can say that, after seeing the things that they see, in a healthy way. And they're able to put it in different compartments, compartmentalize all of those things. Put the emotion here so we can get our job. You know the drill. You know the military, members of the military who have seen horrific things. We've been in several wars, for crying out loud. You have a lot of members of the military suffering from PTSD issues, but not to the point that their weapons should be taken from them. You have the majority of Americans are taking some sort of antidepressant or anti-anxiety medication. That is a statistic that you can go look up yourself. I know what I'm talking about. So if you are on anti-anxiety or anti-depression medication, Does that mean your weapon should be taken away from you? You do that, you've got half the country who can't defend themselves, right? So where is the line? And I mentioned this to Dan Mandis earlier when we were talking right before 9 o'clock. You're talking about people that go to counseling, that see a psychologist, psychiatrist, counselor, therapist, pastor, who may not be as open as you think they are in those counseling sessions. Look, I've been through counseling before. I've seen a psychologist before. I'm not ashamed of that. To kind of clear my head and put things in the right perspective over the years. It's been a while, but I have. And I remember signing documentation, HIPAA laws. None of what I say will be revealed outside of those doors unless you're about to hurt yourself or hurt other people. And then that has to be reported. They are required by law to do that. So are teachers, so are teacher counselors. So not everybody is going to be forthright and forthcoming in counseling sessions about their desires to hurt themselves or hurt other people. You would hope so. And psychologists and psychiatrists and counselors certainly have given the skills to be able to bring that information out of their patients. But not everybody is honest. So you have a lot of questions when it comes to Audrey Hale. If she was under medical care, was it just because of depression issues, anxiety issues, OCD issues? We've gotten some rumors that have not been confirmed yet that she was autistic, but high-functioning autistic. Is that Asperger's? Is that what she had? Was she taking medication for that? Does that mean that she's a threat to other people and should have her guns removed? I mean, obviously now we know it would have been better had her guns been removed from the house. Her parents were under the illusion that there were no guns in the house. And I think I hear people say, well, why didn't those parents, look in her room? It was a 28-year-old. A 28-year-old. It was a grown woman. I have to believe we need to give the parents a little bit of grace here. They were under the illusion that their daughter had sold the one weapon that she had, right? My mind harkens back a little bit to Illinois. In the state of Illinois, you are required to get a FOIA card, a firearm owner ID. Oh, I don't remember what the last. Look that up for me, Mac. What does FOIA stand for? FOIA. It's Firearm Owners Identification, I think. Anyway, I lived there. So you have to have a FOIA card to own weapons. Here's why I bring this up. The Waffle House shooter was from Illinois. He had a FOIA card. It was revoked because police were notified that he was mentally unstable. They went, as I recall, to his home to make sure those guns were confiscated. Those guns ended up with his father, even though police had been notified that this young man, was mentally unstable. They didn't remove the guns from the house. They gave them to his father. The father eventually gave them back to his son, even though his FOIA card was revoked. So even knowing that he was unstable and shouldn't own guns, he still was able to get his guns. And then ended up moving here, and we know what happened in Antioch at that Waffle House shooting. So you can have all the laws that you want on the books and get stricter and stricter, and eventually you end up hurting God-fearing, red-blooded Americans who just want to defend themselves as the Second Amendment allows. So we've got to find a happy medium. In my opinion, we've got to find a way that the right people or the right people have guns if they want them, and those who are a threat to themselves and a threat to other people don't. So the question is, how do you do that? Now, I agree, and I'm going to play some audio from the governor. He posted a video last night of a very somber, if you will, response from the governor last night. I had actually wondered why he had not come out on Monday to make any kinds of statements, and I wondered throughout the day, where's the governor? And so he posted something last night. I did invite him to come on the show today. They respectfully declined and made sure that I had seen this video, and I had. And it was very somber, but now I understand why. His wife, our First Lady, Maria Lee, was very close to the substitute teacher that was killed. And in fact, that substitute teacher was supposed to have dinner with them Monday night. So it's a very emotional situation, even for our governor. So I get that. So I'm glad he finally released some information. And in that video, and again, I'll play the audio for you later on in the program, but in that video, he talked about not reacting at this moment with laws and those sorts of things. I agree to a point. I think now that we're 3 days into this, it is wise to begin the conversations about what we do. I don't think it should be knee-jerk. We do have our legislature in session. I don't think it should be knee-jerk, and we should suddenly pass some laws without really, really thinking it through and what kind of effect it would have and how constitutional these laws are. But we have to have the conversation, and we have to have it now, and we have to have it about mental health issues. And we cannot, I'll repeat this and then we'll take a break, we cannot let woke ideology get in the way of having a serious conversation about this. Our leaders here in Nashville cannot let fear of offending someone in the transgender community keep you from having a real conversation about mental health problems, whether it's in the trans community or whether it's in the, what do we call ourselves now? Cis. Are we cis? All right, those who are not gay or trans. So in the cis community, you cannot let woke ideologies stop you from getting real and telling the truth and getting to the bottom of what some problems are and trying to help those people who have problems. You can't. It's time for that to stop, or things like this could continue to happen. And I send that message directly to our leaders here in Metro Nashville. That would be to John Cooper. That would be to our city council. That would be to our DA, Glenn Funk, and others. Don't let woke ideology keep you from telling the truth and releasing that manifesto. We'll have more here in just a moment. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
The Nashville community continues to deal with the shock and horror of Monday's events. And in an effort to begin the healing process, a vigil to remember the victims is taking place this evening. I'll have details coming up at 9:30. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay Harper. I appreciate that. Point of correction for Miss Pamela here. So, FOIA and FOID are two different things.
Yeah, FOIA is Freedom of Information Act.
Yes, and that is like stuck in my head as a member of the media and that sort of thing. I've used so many FOIA requests, I can't even count them. So FOID is the firearm owner's identification, right? So ID, so firearm owner ID card is what is given in Illinois when you buy a firearm. You have to qualify for the card first. They give it to you, and then you can go buy your firearm. But you have to go through this background check and all that kind of stuff in the state of Illinois. And so that's what the shooter in the Waffle House shooting case had, and was revoked by the police because he was deemed too unstable to own those guns. So I just wanted to correct myself there. I apologize. It's the journalist side who's very, very familiar with the FOIA. That's why I'm like, where's the A? Where's the A? I can't figure out where the A went. It's because there is no A. It's D for the ID card. All right. So we will have more from Jay coming up at 9:30 and more information about what's happening within the community. Think about this, and we're going to have to brace ourselves for this. We've got memorial services coming up because now the families are going to have to bury their dead. And that, of course, is going to take a little bit of a grieving toll on all of us. I was talking to one of the guys from our sports station in the hall just right before we came on, and they're back to talking sports. I mean, we do have, is it the Final Four? I don't even know. See, I've lost track. We do have a major basketball tournament that's coming up. So they're going back to talking about sports. But he even said it's difficult to know what the balance is because a lot of people want to go back to normal. A lot of people don't want to talk about it anymore. And that's valid. And then there are a lot of people who are obsessed and can't stop talking about it, and that's valid. And then there are those that are still just in shock and haven't talked about it, and that's valid. All of it is valid. This morning, also driving in, I needed to play some music, and this time some upbeat music for me, because I wanted to get back to normal. Our friend Lisa Manning down the hall at Nash Icon, she and I were talking about it, and she said, we've gone back to regular programming because people need an escape. They need something to get away from the true realism that there are some problems going on every day in this country. You need people that want to get back to normalcy. I would venture to say, you parents that are listening, it is important to you and your families to get back to normal routines so your children can get back to not being afraid of going to school here in Nashville. You can't tell me those little ones aren't afraid. And so you have to balance between staying informed, staying engaged, but getting back to normalcy for this, because every bit of it is valid. It is 9:30. It's actually, yes, it is 9:30. I am Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 9:30, and I'm Jay Harper. Plenty of sunshine that's warmed us up to 46 degrees downtown. A complete forecast is on the way. As investigators delve into the history and motivations of the Covenant School shooter, the community is dealing with the shock and horror of that massacre. Here's Jim Ryan.
Katie Robbins lives next to the Covenant School and was looking out her window on Monday morning when she saw a group of children sprinting across the street.
I don't know if my stomach dropped. It was more like my heart almost exploded, Like, oh my God, it's happening here. Oh my God, it's happening.
She helped to lead the children and their teachers to safety as the massacre unfolded inside the Covenant School. 3 students and 3 staff members would die before the shooter was killed by police.
A candlelight vigil scheduled this evening at Public Square Park to honor the victims of the event. This particular event scheduled for 5:30 tonight. Mayor John Cooper, along with Police Chief John Drake and other leaders, are expected to speak. That's some of what's happening. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you into higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN 937. Glad to have you on board. 737-9986 is our super text line. 615-737-9986. Enjoy your comments. Feel free. Ask anything. Make any comments about anything we're talking about today. We are very happy to hear from you. Now, tonight, the city of Nashville is planning a vigil. You heard Jay talk about that in the newscast at 9:30. Supposed to happen, I believe, is it 5:30, Jay? I believe it's 5:30 tonight.
That is correct. Yes,
Excellent. At the public square, correct?
Correct. Downtown.
All right. So it's a vigil so that the community can come together. Boy, I hope those that speak at this vigil tonight stick with healing messages, stick with mourning messages, MOURN, mourning messages, and stay away from the politics of it all. I honestly, I am a citizen of Nashville. My zip code is a Nashville zip code, Nashville-Davidson County. As a citizen of Nashville, I hope my leaders don't start spouting off gun control issues in a woke, liberal kind of way. What we need from our leaders is resolve to heal right at this moment. That's what a vigil is for. If you want to do a rally to call for whatever it is you believe would be the answer to this, do that at another time. This is supposed to be a candlelight. Well, it can't be candlelight at 5:30, but it's supposed to be a vigil for these who lost their lives. And for family members, if they so choose to attend, friends of the people who passed away, community members who saw what happened that day. We're hearing more and more every day from people who knew those who were killed on Monday. We're hearing more and more from people who knew the shooter who carried out this, I'm going to call it a terrorist attack. It was terrifying and terrorizing, but knew her and knew some of the issues she was having, but I don't know if anybody realized how deep and dark and what kind of dark place she was really in. Don't know that. That's what we are waiting to find out. And I am calling on the city of Nashville, whoever can make the decision on releasing that manifesto does so. Not to make the shooter famous, but to try to understand why and to try to analyze what was going on in the mind of a killer, in the mind of a troubled young woman, and when she flipped from being an artist, a graphic artist who had a lot of talent from what I could see. I can't draw pictures like she did. I don't have a drawing bone in my body. I can barely draw a stick figure. So she was extremely talented. When did the flip happen? We're told, Brian Wilson had this yesterday, his sources are telling him that she had gone down this rabbit hole 10 years ago when she was 18 years old and had plotted to commit some sort of mass shooting. I think possibly that's in some of her writings. I don't know. That's speculation on my part, but that means there had to have been some awareness that she thought of this before, unless she didn't share that with anybody, and it's only in her manifesto. Something stopped her 10 years ago, thank God. What could have been done to stop her this time? We will be asking ourselves that for years to come. Now, more witnesses are coming forward, and we're learning more harrowing details about the shooting. I know you've heard this morning from our news guy, Jay, and I think Dan Mandis talked about it as well. I'm just going to play one little clip. Did you know that Melissa Joan Hart lives here? I didn't know that. And these days, some people might not even know who she is. She was a famous actress at one point. She was Sabrina the Teenage Witch. That's probably more in my time than some of the younger adults that are listening to us today. And she says she and her husband were driving. I guess they had children that go to one of the schools that are nearby. There are several schools in that area in Green Hills, quite a few schools. I've talked to several parents who send their kids to school at different locations in that particular area and were terrified when the word started to spread that there was a school shooting in Green Hills. Well, actress Melissa Joan Hart and her husband, they were driving when they saw kids running, and they had the opportunity to guide them to safety. She's a mother of 3. They now live in Nashville, and she shared her heartbreaking experience in an Instagram video.
We helped a class of kindergartners across a busy highway that were climbing out of the woods.
They were climbing out of the woods looking for help.
They were trying to escape the shooter situation at their school. So we helped all these tiny little kids cross the road and get their teachers over there, and we helped a mom reunite with her children.
This is just, to me, I could break down in tears just hearing that. But you know what? I'll say this. This is what I love about Nashville and Tennessee in general. Can I say this? It doesn't matter what's happening. People here drop what they do and help. That's why we're called the volunteer state. This is the spirit that runs through most of us. Whether you were born here or you moved here as soon as you could, that volunteer spirit takes over. That's what I love. So Melissa, not knowing what was happening at that moment, all she saw were kids were running. They stopped to help them. Because that's what you do. I think I saw video footage of other cars and other people here in Nashville pulling over to the side and asking, what can we do? Not what's happening, but what can we do to help? Whatever's going on, how can we help? The spirit of Tennessee is alive and well. The spirit of volunteerism is alive and well here, and I love it. Now, again, a citywide candlelight vigil will be held tonight at Public Square Park to honor the victims of Covenant School. I'm sure that our men and women in uniform will also be honored tonight. Textbook way to handle what happened on Monday. I think Russ Pulley, who's a council member, will be there. State Representative Harold Love Jr., Metro Nashville Police Chief John Drake will also be there. And again, I'm begging, not demanding, I'm begging, please, for the love of God, keep the woke speak out of it. It's going to divide us more if you do, and we don't need division right at this moment.
Well, Pamela, do you really expect our mayor to do otherwise?
No.
I mean, let's face it, every time I've seen him on the Today Show and other events that he's appeared at, and that's the first thing he mentions.
The guns. We've got to do something about the guns. We've got to do something about the guns. And in my opinion, I agree we've got to do something. But the guns are not the problem. It's the people holding the guns. The guns are not the problem. It's the people that issue the guns to people who shouldn't be holding the guns, right? Of course, if they are not aware, if gun stores, what did we hear from John Drake? That 7 of the weapons were purchased at 5 different locations here in Nashville, and they were purchased legally. So you can't blame the gun store owners. You can't blame the gun manufacturers. You can't blame the parents. You can't blame Republican lawmakers, although they're trying to do so. You can only blame the shooter. It's the shooter that made the decision. Now, coming up probably after the news at 10. I want to dive into the information that we've received about the second possible target. And then the idea that people are saying that her goal was to commit as much mass casualty as she could. I don't know if that's true, and I'll tell you why I think so. And it's just discussion, right? None of us really know, except for maybe those who are holding the manifesto, which we need to compel our lawmakers to release that. But I want to play some audio. You know who's getting blasted right now? You know who's getting blasted? State Representative Andy Ogles. Now, Andy Ogles, to my knowledge, wasn't even in Nashville on Monday. And to my knowledge, didn't pull the trigger on Monday. He's getting blasted for a photo that was released, 2 Christmases ago, of he and his family holding guns. What can you tell me does that have to do with what happened on Monday? So he was on with Dan Mandis this morning. Is my computer up, Producer Mac? Excellent. He was asked about it on Nashville's Morning News. Here's what he had to say. Well, I have to hit the play button if this is actually going to work. Here we go.
Well, first off, at a time when you've had 6 precious lives lost, at roughly 10:13 a.m., our community, our state, our country was shattered by another senseless act of violence by someone with mental illness. And if we're talking about a Christmas card that was taken 2 years ago versus addressing a real issue, which is mental illness in this country, then we're not focused. And what this is the attacks on me are driven by an agenda to ban guns. I'm not going to bow down to that religion of banning guns. We got to get to the root cause of this. Look, obesity is one of the leading killers in America. We're going to ban sugar? Of course not. We're going to ban spoons? That's a stupid thing to say. Why? Because banning things isn't going to fix the fact that this young woman was troubled. She set out that day to hurt people. She could have done it with a gun. She could have done it with a car. She could have done it with a knife. She could have done it with a rock. She could have done it with fertilizer and diesel fuel. So we can't ban our way out of this. And anyone who's talking about that is ignoring the fact that 3 precious children died. 3 adults gave their lives protecting those children. And I'm sick and tired of this woke agenda trying to destroy our country. And I had a reporter ask me, to your point, do I regret taking that picture? I do not regret taking a picture with my family, nor do I regret exercising my constitutional rights, the right to bear arms. And I believe, I was asked again yesterday on Fox, what solutions are there? What could Congress do? You know what? I think we should put a firearm in every classroom in America. And when some idiot walks in trying to harm our kids, they get put down. That's what we need to do to secure our schools.
All right, that is a very passionate Andy Ogles. You could hear the emotion in his voice as he answered that question. A lot of people are blasting him for that photo. I will say this, then we have to take a break. But I talked to some folks, was it yesterday, who were, blasting him. But they didn't know that photo was taken 2 years ago. They thought it was something recent and felt like it was in bad taste to display that photo. What they didn't realize, Andy's not displaying that photo right at this moment. It's the liberal left who are wanting to see Republicans fail. They want to see Republicans fall. They're making it political. They're the ones that released that photo recently and want him to be blasted. So, I want to say I want to give grace to people who don't know the whole story. It is your responsibility to find the story. When you see things posted like that, dig a little bit and make sure there's not more to the story. And with Andy Ogles, this was 2 years ago, guys. This was 2 years ago. It wasn't like it was an Easter card being sent out, for crying out loud, today. It's 9:50. 9986. Actually, it's 9:51, isn't it? We'll take a break. I am Pamela Furr on Super Talk 997 WTN.
A vigil for the 6 victims of the horrific Covenant School shooting is taking place downtown this evening. I'll have details. And we'll hear from a popular actress who found herself part of Monday's events. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Jay. I appreciate that. The AP has released a story a moment ago, and I want to. Oh, it's very, very biased. There's no, balance in this story. It says as Nashville residents reeled from a fatal grade school shooting, that left 6 dead, a federal judge quietly cleared the way to drop the minimum age for Tennesseans to carry handguns publicly without a permit to 18, just 2 years after a new law set the age at 21. Now, that's what lawmakers are wanting to do. Can you tell me why this is even brought up? Because this would not have prevented what happened on Monday. She was 28 years old. The shooter was 28 years old. But the AP says the move marked yet another relaxation of gun laws in Ruby Red, Tennessee, where GOP leaders have steadily chipped away at firearm regulations and lambasted those who have warned that doing so comes at a cost. Boy, good job at keeping your opinion out of your reporting. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It is 10 o'clock, and I'm Jay Harper. A lot of sunshine, 46 degrees now in Music City. A complete forecast is on the way. As the city of Nashville mourns the 6 victims of Monday's shooting, growing questions about how the shooter was able to legally acquire 7 firearms despite being under care for an emotional disorder. Here's ABC's Pierre Thomas.
The killer in this case had been diagnosed with an emotional disorder so concerning that the parents did not believe this person should have access to guns. The parents told police they knew about 1 firearm but thought it had been sold. But it turns out the shooter was hiding 7 guns in the home that had been bought legally because the soon-to-be mass murderer had no criminal record. The police chief said his department had no knowledge any of this was happening. So when the shooter contacted a friend just minutes before the attack to say a suicide mission was imminent, it was far too late.
Popular actress Melissa Joan Hart lives in Nashville and was driving in the Green Hills area when she and her husband found themselves assisting children who were escaping the terror unfolding at their school.
My husband and I were on our way to school for conferences, and luckily our kids weren't in today, and we helped a class of kindergartners across a busy highway that were climbing out of the woods, that were trying to escape the shooter situation at their school. So we helped all these tiny little kids cross the road and get their teachers over there, and we helped a mom reunite with her children. And I don't know what to say anymore. It is just enough is enough. And just pray for the families.
Ironically, Hart and her family lived in Connecticut near Sandy Hook Elementary when that school shooting occurred there in 2012. And finally, a citywide candlelight vigil will take place tonight at Public Square Park to honor the victims of the Covenant School shooting. The event is scheduled for 5:30 this evening. Mayor John Cooper, along with Police Chief John Drake and other leaders, are expected to speak. That's some of what's happening. Weather is next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Good morning. I already want it to be afternoon. Anyway, good morning. Hi, I'm Pamela Furr. It is 10:05. Glad to have you on board today. We, of course, continue to talk about what happened on Monday. I have to be honest with you. Is there anything greater for us to be discussing right now here in Nashville and the Middle Tennessee area? I personally don't think so. Now, I will tell you, let me give you a quick update. I don't believe the grand jury is meeting this week to discuss Donald Trump and the so-called hush money in Manhattan. That's the latest that I've seen. They're not going to be meeting. So there's going to be no charges against former President Donald Trump. So we are on top of that. We're watching that. There have been some hearings going on in Washington, D.C. I've got some great audio from our senator from Louisiana who was grilling Mayorkas about the border, and it's pretty funny. And I'll play that for you in the 11 o'clock hour. Be listening for that. But I personally don't think there's anything else more important than what we're discussing right now, and that is the aftermath of what happened on Monday. You know the story at Covenant School in the Green Hills area of Nashville. And people are, again, I've got CNN on. We've got CNN reporters here in town, and if you guys are listening, please understand, I think your reporting is wrong. If MSNBC reporters are here and they're listening, I'm going to tell you, I think your reporting is wrong. And I think you need to explore and talk more about the idea that there was a second target that Police Chief John Drake reported. He told you guys, he told reporters in the manifesto, in the writings that they have, that they're combing over. It was determined that there was going to be a second target, but the shooter decided not to go to that target. Why? Too much security. It was a hardened target. So she scrapped that idea. I think that is an important aspect of this story. And it doesn't fall into the hands of so-called gun lovers, the gun-toting, redneck, God-fearing, Bible-thumping people that the left wants to make you think want to carry their guns. Didn't Barack Obama even say something like that? You're Bible-thumping gun lovers many moons ago. No, we are red-blooded, God-fearing Americans who want to protect our family. We want to protect our life, our liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the shooter on Monday took that away from 6 people. And it could have been more. But she didn't go. Our sources are telling, well, it's actually Brian Wilson's source telling him that that target may have been Opry Mills Mall. Think about that. But why did she stop? Hardened target. So as we're talking about what can we do to prevent this from happening again, or at least prevent it from being 6 people killed. What can we do? Well, our lawmakers are talking about allowing teachers to be armed in schools. Personally, I think that should happen today. I think, I don't know if the governor could do it, but I think a governor should sign an executive order and make that available to Tennesseans now. And make sure, of course, that the teacher can handle a gun and knows how to use it if there's a threat. The worst thing you want to happen is somebody who doesn't know how to use it, who's fearful in using it. You don't want that to happen. You don't want to be careless, because then really bad things could happen. Like the enemy could get your gun if you're too afraid to use it. Or you might shoot somebody innocent, crossfire, all those things. So it has to be somebody that wants to be armed in schools. They're talking about students being able to carry weapons on college campuses. I'm trying to figure out if that is a good idea or not. Now, mind you, and I know the audience that I'm listening to, but you have to play out all the scenarios. If you're talking about college kids on college campuses and you allow them to carry on these college campuses, what's going to prevent also people who want to do bad things from carrying guns then on campuses? Of course, then you could take them, now you've got all these people firing guns. If a shooter comes out of the woodwork trying to hurt people, and you've got others, anyway, you could see the potential for chaos. You have to at least play that into this, don't you? I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm just saying let's make sure that we play out all the scenarios that could happen to make sure it is the best idea. But arming teachers on college campuses, 100% yes. Arming faculty members on college campuses and school campuses in the state of Tennessee, 100% yes. Allowing that to happen, yes. You can secure a weapon in a way that students can't touch it. There are ways to secure it. And when there is something going on, they can grab it, use it if need be, and protect the rest of those kids. So I think that is a conversation that is worth having, not banning weapons from God-fearing, red-blooded, volunteer Tennesseans who live in this great country we call America. Now, that's a conversation I think that should be had. Secondly, as I mentioned in the first hour, I think we do have to have a conversation about mental illness. And what can we do? What are the red flag? I hate to use that term because of the red flag laws. And we need to explore that. Has the red flag laws worked that are out there? I mean, you could have it on the books, but I'm not sure it would have done any good in this case. The parents thought they were under the illusion that the shooter, their daughter, sold the only weapon that she had. So they were concerned that she owned one. They were under the illusion that she got rid of it. They didn't know she had more weapons. So would the red flag laws that are on other books in other states, would it have applied here? Could it have worked here? And I would say no. Unless, she was under a doctor's care for some sort of, they said, mental disorder. Well, what was the disorder? We don't know at this moment. Was it depression? Was it suicidal thoughts? Although there are some that say this is not the first time she had suicidal thoughts. There are some that say this isn't the first time that she wanted to shoot people and hurt people. That 10 years ago, this is a source from Brian Wilson, 10 years ago, she had thought about it and planned it out. What stopped her then? Could have something happened to have stopped her Monday? We'll be asking that question for a long, long time. But guns are not the problem. I will tell you, I believe in this country and in the state of Tennessee, we don't look closely at mental health issues as we should. And we've made it very difficult for people to get the help that they need. Insurance doesn't pay for it half the time. You find psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists booked to the gills. I'm aware of a situation a couple of years back where somebody continually kept trying to get an appointment because they needed help and they couldn't get one for months out. And they tried everybody they knew to try. And it was recommended that they check themselves into the state mental facility. They didn't. I will tell you that there was a post, an Instagram post, saying goodbye to the world from this individual, When I saw it, I called the police. This has been a couple of years ago. The police were so overworked and understaffed. I called in the afternoon, and it was 2 o'clock in the morning before I got a knock on the door from Metro Police. It's not their fault. Trying to find out more details about this individual. They went knocking on the door. He was alive. He was admitted into the state mental facility for a, what is it, a 72-hour, whatever it is that they do, 3-day hold to make sure he was okay. But he had reached out. Couldn't find help unless, again, you check yourself into a state mental facility. And I have to be honest with you, and it's no offense against the state, but I mean, just that sounds so, you see all of these stories and TV shows about state mental facilities, and they don't sound that pleasant. I can't remember if the guy had it. I don't know if the guy had insurance. Now, this family, the family of the shooter, obviously living in the area that they lived, they had money. So I'm sure they had insurance. And it says that the shooter was under medical care. Was the shooter being honest with the therapist? Was the shooter being honest with the doctor? We don't know. We don't know any of these things. But we do have to address it at some point, I think. Mental health issues in the state of Tennessee. Now, I want to go back to this article from the AP that was just posted not too very long ago. If you didn't hear it, I'll start it again here. As Nashville residents reeled from a fatal grade school shooting that left 6 dead, a federal judge quietly cleared the way to drop the minimum age for Tennesseans to carry handguns publicly without a permit to 18, just 2 years after a new law set the age at 21. I want to point out to the AP this would have done nothing to stop what happened on Monday. I also want to point out, aren't you being guilty of trying to capitalize on what happened Monday to perhaps push an agenda? Maybe. Back to the article, the move marked yet another relaxation of gun laws in Ruby Red, Tennessee, where GOP leaders have steadily chipped away at firearm regulations and lambasted those who have warned that doing so comes at a cost. What regulation was eased in the state of Tennessee that allowed what happened on Monday to happen? I would contend nothing. The article goes on, it's a familiar scene playing out across the U.S. with Republican-dominant states rebuffing calls to strengthen gun safety laws in the wake of violent tragedies, and Democrats in blue states championing gun control proposals. This isn't freedom. Our families don't deserve this. I'm sick of living in fear that our loved ones won't make it home because of gun violence. This is from State Senator Ramesh Akbari, who is a Democrat from Memphis. This is what he had to say shortly after Monday's shooting. Well, I want to bring up to State Senator Akbari from Memphis, who could be listening right now. What about Opry Mills? What protected Opry Mills from being attacked on Monday? According to, if it was indeed Opry Mills, I want to point that out. A source is telling WTN's Brian Wilson that the second target may have been Opry Mills. So if that is the case, what prevented that second target, whatever it may have been, from getting shot up on Monday? And according to even John Drake, in some of the reporting that was done and the questions that were asked, he said because there was too much security, the shooter dropped the idea of going to the second target. It was a hardened target, guys. So what about those families who did make it home because of guns? They made it home because the guns were protecting them on Monday, and the shooter knew it, so the shooter stayed away. What do you say to them, Senator Akbari? 1021, Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Coming up at 10:30 this morning, we'll hear from the former principal of Columbine High School who wanted to offer his words of support to Nashville. We'll also have details on that vigil for the victims that's happening downtown later on this evening. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Jay. It is 10:25. I'm getting some messages. I don't know what's going on in the internet. I have to be honest with you. I haven't checked socials much in the last couple of days, truthfully, because, by the time I get home and decompress, I also have some other things that I'm involved in this community. And so I haven't had a chance to catch up on what's happening on the interwebs, right? And on socials. So apparently there is some discussion that one of the conspiracy theorists will pop in on these kinds of things, and that the shoes of someone, a child maybe, going into the school were one pair of shoes, and as shoes coming out were a different pair of shoes. Therefore, it's a fake photo. Now, come on, guys. Let's just be reasonable here. We're talking about young kids, right? Up to 6th grade. And if I know parents, and I do, and I know some elementary schools and whatnot, you always send an extra pair of something with kids, even if it's at the beginning of the year, to have it available in case, I don't know, the kid jumps in a mud puddle or there's some sort of accident. We're talking about young children here. And so they always have an extra pair of something. So that's one explanation. Here's another explanation. Everybody should know this. They should know it now because everybody's taking photos with their cameras. Lighting changes everything. Lighting can change the color of something, at least what you perceive to be a certain color. So what looks blue in one lighting area can look purple in another lighting area, or what? You know what I mean? And so, my hair sometimes changes colors just based on the lighting. I have red hair.
Oh, yeah.
But if I'm in darker lighting, it looks like I have brown hair.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I'm in brighter lighting, it looks like I am really, really, really a light blonde. It just depends on the lighting. So be careful, guys, when you start spouting off possible conspiracies here that I keep saying, play all scenarios out in your head before you post them. Okay, quite frankly, make a fool out of yourself. So that's what I have to say about that. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait until 10:35. At 10:35, I want to tell you about one Knoxville transgender who is spouting what I think are very dangerous things. If we're going to blast former President Donald Trump for blasting words about people are going to die if I'm arrested. If you're going to do that, then you're going to have to do the same thing to this person out in Knoxville who's making some national news today about what happened on Monday and the transgender community. So stick with me on that coming up at 10:35 after the news. Meanwhile, we are getting a lot of super texters who are saying there is a nationwide shortage on therapists, a nationwide shortage on psychologists and psychiatrists. I agree with you. There is. And you know what else there's a shortage of, especially in Nashville? Cops. Last I heard, we had a shortage of cops at pushing close to the 200 mark. So you're talking about an overworked, overburdened Metro Nashville Police Department that kicked ass on Monday. You're talking about an overworked, overwhelmed Metro Nashville Police Department that did their job on Monday. But why are we still close to 200 police officers short? Why are we having a problem retaining our police officers? I've had conversations. There's some theories about that. One of those theories is that we have a DA that's way too woke to do his job. I'm talking about Glenn Funk, of course. That the cops work so hard to get these people off the streets that are committing crimes that are harming other people, like drunk drivers and gangbangers and, et cetera, illegals that are bringing in fentanyl. I can go on and on and on. They work so hard. And there are times that our DA does not prosecute the crime, or the bail is set really, really low and they're back out on the streets. I know for a fact that's happening in Memphis. So you've got police officers who throw up their hands in frustration and say, I've been doing this now for 25 years. It's time to go. It's time to put in my papers and it's time to go. Or you've got people who want to work and serve and go through the police academy and go through all the steps. And then they get frustrated because, I don't know, one of their own goes to jail. Remember that case? Where a man who was doing his job ended up in jail after shooting a man who was running away, but he had a gun in his hand while he was running. So you can't tell me these things aren't contributing factors to being able to recruit new police officers for Metro Nashville and other police agencies beyond Nashville. In Mount Juliet, in Hendersonville, in Franklin, in Dixon. By the way, love our Franklin guys. Hat tip to you, gentlemen and ladies. It is 10:30. Need to take a break for news. When we come back, I want to tell you about this Knoxville transgender who's stirring it up after what happened on Monday. Stick around. I am Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 10:31, and I'm Jay Harper. We've got plenty of sunshine. We're up to 51 degrees. A complete forecast is upcoming. In 1999, two gunmen opened fire at Columbine High School in Colorado, killing 30 and injuring many others. Former Columbine school principal Frank DeAngelis was once in the position the Nashville community now finds itself in after Monday's tragedy at the Covenant School. DeAngelis spoke with News 2 to offer his words of support to Nashville.
One thing that happens is I think that community is very connected and just coming together. And one of the things that I learned pretty early on is an entire community can go through it, but how people deal with it, they deal with it differently.
A candlelight vigil will take place tonight at Public Square Park to honor the victims of the shooting. The event is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. Mayor John Cooper, as well as Police Chief John Drake and other leaders are expected to attend and speak. That's the latest. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 10:36. I am Pamela Furr in for whoever was supposed to have been here. Anyway, it is Wednesday. Glad to have you on board. We're looking at the aftermath of Monday and the shooting that happened on Monday. And I know there are different news organizations that are in town. I implore you to be factual and not agenda-driven. That being said, from NBC News, here's the headline. Fear pervades Tennessee's trans community amid focus on Nashville shooter's gender identity. We're already fearing for our lives. Now it's even worse, one transgender advocate in the state said to NBC News. Now, just on that alone, I could speak for 20 minutes. The fact is, this shooter was a female who wanted to be addressed as male. And we're learning more about how that possibly happened. Let me take you back just a little bit, and then we'll get back to the transgender community. According to art instructor Maria Colamy, she was an art college instructor. She works at or taught at the Nassau College of Art and Design, which is where the shooter went, Audrey Hale. And Maria was speaking to a news agency. I don't recall which. Oh, it's the New York Times, actually. And said that she recalled the shooter's Facebook post from some time ago of mourning, openly grieving the death of a romantic partner. Now, all the shooter's social media accounts have been pulled down. You don't have access to them anymore. So you can't go back and look really at this point. Ms. Colamy told the New York Times that Hale had announced the bereavement and asked to be addressed as Aiden at that point, and by masculine pronouns from then on, after the death of her romantic partner. She had, quote, she had been openly grieving about that on social media, and during the grieving is when she announced that she wanted to be addressed as a male. It's not clear who Hale's romantic partner was. Social media accounts, as I said, they've been taken down. The detail emerges as the police continue to investigate. In fact, John Drake right now is on CNN. If anybody in the newsroom wants to listen to what Chief Drake is saying right at this moment. But the investigation continues into what actually drove the shooter to launch this assault on Covenant School in Green Hills. Hale was also killed in the incident by a team of police responders. Again, bad A police officers that you've seen in this graphic body cam footage that was released by police yesterday, and I'm glad that they did. Miss Colamy, check this out, also recalled an incident where Hale suffered an emotional outburst on the first day in class in 2017. She told the New York Times that Hale had burst into tears of frustration after struggling to create a password for an online student portal. At that point, Colony advised the student to step outside and take a breath. Apparently, Hale did that, took a deep breath, got centered. The teacher said this was the only time she witnessed Hale express an extreme emotion, but thought it was noteworthy as an excessive reaction to a relatively unimportant problem. And as we know, as over the years, some of us have studied, if indeed she was autistic, high-functioning autistic, but autistic, that sometimes emotional outbursts on very, very minute things happen. The college president confirmed that Hale had graduated from the school in 2022. So just a year ago, maybe even less than a year ago. Since the shooting, some of the killer's artwork has come to light. And I got to tell you, it's impressive artwork. I think it is. As we know, investigators have retrieved a map and a manifesto from the family's home, indicating plans for further targets, including the city mall. Now, that's NBC. Is it NBC? No, that's the New York Times saying the city mall. As we know, there are quite a few malls. So Opry Mills, I think, is the specific mall that we have learned. At least that's what we've learned at WTN with Brian Wilson. Now, I can tell you that that's not enough for teachers to raise red flags that she was a serious harm to herself or to other people. It's also not enough to note that she was mourning the loss of a romantic partner. But that could be what sent her down a depression spiral. And as we noted yesterday, when the friend released information that she had been contacted shortly before the shootings began, we noted in there that she said she had to die today. And the friend had noted that she had dealt with depression in the past, and maybe this was why her romantic partner was gone. And I don't know what the circumstances there were. Mac, did you have something?
No, I'm just watching Chief Drake on CNN, just seeing if there's any new information. Doesn't look like he's revealing anything we haven't already heard. Did say that detectives believe that parents are telling the truth when they said that they didn't know she had any weapons. They thought that she had sold the one firearm they knew she had previously owned illegally, and that on top of that, that she did not, that the parents did not know that
Right.
red bag did not look in that red bag.
Oh, yeah. So she was apparently when she left the house,
Yes.
she had a red bag with her, and that had one of the weapons. Well, leaving the house had all the weapons in that bag. And why would a parent ask what's in? And even if they did, hey, what's in the bag? Oh, nothing. And you go on your way. She was a 28-year-old grown woman. So why would they have stopped her to look inside the bag? Of course not.
And especially when they truly thought she didn't have
She didn't
weapons.
have any weapons. So we certainly can't. And I hope people are not blaming the parents here because, again, if they didn't even know, and it would not, I would think, would not be incumbent upon parents to go snooping in the room of a 28-year-old woman. You know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A 17-year-old, maybe, a 14, a 9, maybe, but a 28-year-old woman, I don't know about that.
He also said that detectives right now don't believe that she had any troubles at Covenant School when she attended and any home troubles with her parents either, as far as they know.
Loved her parents. There's some photos out there of just family photos. She has a brother, too.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody has spoken. I'm sure police have spoken to the brother. All right. So thank you, Mac, very much. And we'll keep you posted if Chief Drake has anything else to reveal that he has not already revealed. What we need to see is that manifesto. And what I believe we need to do is put pressure on law enforcement in the city to release that manifesto once they are done investigating anything in there that can reveal what could have caused her to snap. But I think we need to know this information. I think we need to investigate. And as citizens, I think we have a right to know, quite frankly. And truthfully, it should be examined by other psychologists, psychiatrists, what have you, and start doing some analysis. And you can't be woke just because she was a transgender. That may have played in some of this. And we're not trying to hate on people who are transgender. This isn't hate. I'll go back to the headline just a moment ago from NBC News that I found. Fear pervades Tennessee's trans community amid focus on Nashville shooter's gender identity. We're not focusing on that. We're giving you the facts. Are we supposed to hide that? No. Shortly after the news broke Monday of this fatal shooting, police said the suspect was transgender. By the way, I don't know that they offered that right off the bat. I think a reporter started asking, and that's how it was revealed during a Q&A with law enforcement. This detail, according to trans people in the state, has poured fuel on an already combustive environment that has led many of them to fear for their safety. Now, right off the bat, I have a problem with that. Who's making it a combustive environment? Because it certainly isn't laws that are being passed here. We know that the so-called drag queen bill, which, by the way, never actually uses the term drag queen, we know that was passed to keep young children like your kindergartners, your first graders, second graders, third, fourth, up to sixth grade and beyond, any minors, from being exposed to sexually explicit material before they are really mature enough to do so. It doesn't ban drag queens from performing in this state. It doesn't even ban drag queens from performing publicly. It bans drag queens and other adult performers from being sexually explicit and vulgar and inappropriate in front of children in the state of Tennessee. How is that then making it a combustive environment? It's not. It's the trans community. It is those who support the trans community and the liberal left who have made it combustive, in my opinion. There's more, but I've run out of time just for this segment. If we have time, we'll continue this on the other side of the break. And if not, I want you to hear from this person, this transgendered activist out of Knoxville, who I think is stirring it up a bit in this state. I want you to hear it all. So if it's not in the next segment, it will certainly be at 11:05. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Monday's tragedy that took the lives of 6 people continues to shock and sadden the Nashville community, and the former principal of Columbine High School offers his words of support. Details coming up at 11. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay. I just want to say I've got clarification now on what is going around the interwebs right now about this being possibly a, quote, false flag. You know what? I want to punch people who do this kind of thing. And I say that only in facetiously. I'm not going to punch anybody, but my redhead gets a little riled up. So it wasn't, I said earlier, possibly it was a child that had a certain shoe and coming out it had a different shoe. No. I've gotten down to the bottom of it. What's going around is that they're saying the shooter had one kind of shoe going in, and when the shooter was taken down, they had a different kind of shoe on, and somebody out there is posting differences or whatever and saying, ooh, is this a false flag? Could it be? Nah. And being very sarcastic. You know what? Stop. You have families in this community who are devastated because their child is dead. Stop. You've got 3 adults who were beloved members of this community who are dead. Stop. This was not fake. There's no false flag here. You are idiots. And I swear to the heavens, if I could find a way to get down to the bottom of who started it, there's got to be a way to, I believe in free speech. I do. I believe that idiots can say stupid things. I do. But this is awful. It just makes me so mad. It makes me mad. Stop. Oh, sorry. Thank you for letting me vent. For crying out loud. And if you're sharing that, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Stop it. Right now. All right, when we come back, we'll hear from that transgender activist in Knoxville and what he has to say about this situation and how the trans community is feeling right now. It's all straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It is 11 a.m. and I'm Jay Harper. It is clear. The sun's warming us up to 51 degrees. With all that sunshine, a complete forecast is on the way. As investigators delve into the history and motivations of the Covenant School shooter, the community continues to deal with the shock and horror of the massacre. Here's Jim Ryan.
Morning when she saw a group of children sprinting across the street.
I don't know if my stomach dropped. It was more like my heart almost exploded, like, oh my God, it's happening here. Oh my God, it's happening.
She helped to lead the children and their teachers to safety as the massacre unfolded inside the Covenant School. 3 students and 3 staff members would die before the shooter was killed by police.
In 1999, 2 gunmen opened fire at Columbine High School in Colorado, killing 30 and injuring many others. Former Columbine School principal Frank DeAngelis was once in the position that the Nashville community now finds itself in after Monday's tragedy at the Covenant School. DeAngelis spoke with News 2 here in Nashville to offer his words of support to the city and to say that the emotions many are feeling right now can be confusing.
An entire community can go through it, but how people deal with it, they deal with it differently. And you're going to have some people that just feel they need to talk. You're going to have others say, I don't want to talk about it. The sooner I get back to doing what I was doing prior is going to help me heal. And you're going to have some people in between.
DeAngelis also adds that one of the things that's so difficult for many people is that they don't even know what they need at this point. A vigil will take place tonight at Public Square Park to honor the victims of the school shooting. The event is scheduled for 5:30 tonight. Mayor John Cooper, Police Chief John Drake, and others are expected to speak. That's what's happening. Weather is next. Jay Harper, WTN News.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I am Pamela Furr. Glad to have you on board today. It is a gorgeous Wednesday. The sun is still out there. I know we've got some clouds rolling in, but we are still reeling from what happened on Monday. We still have a lot of questions to ask. We have a lot to learn about what happened on Monday after this. I'm going to now call it a terrorist attack that happened on Monday at Covenant School. Brian Wilson, by the way, has a great timeline. If you want to check, he's done his own research, his own homework, and he's put a timeline of how everything kind of happened and unfolded on Monday on his website. What is it? ufarb.com. You can find it there. Your friend and radio buddy, you can find it there. And he talked about it yesterday. Obviously, we have more questions on the actual shooter, her mental state, her mental capacity. We've learned that when she attended the Nazi School of Arts here in Nashville, that there were some emotional outbursts. One in particular that a teacher talked about, told the New York Times happened, that was a bit irrational. But she did graduate. She also had some, according to this teacher, she had some emotional issues that surfaced on Facebook where a romantic partner died. I don't know how or when or where, but that's when Audrey Hale wanted to be referred to as Aiden. That's when she made the decision. She wanted to be called Aiden. She wanted to be referred to as a he, him, and would be living out the rest of her days as a male. We don't know if she was truly transitioning medically. We don't know at this point if she was taking medication to block the estrogen hormones, the female hormones, and being injected with testosterone. We don't know that. I mean, we can speculate, and there's lots of speculation that maybe she had too much testosterone and that led to what happened. I don't know. We don't know those answers right at this moment. At least I certainly don't. Praying for her parents, along with the other parents and the other families who are devastated by what happened. I know the liberals are screaming at me right now saying, thoughts and prayers, thoughts and prayers. We don't need thoughts and prayers right now. We need answers. Yes, I agree with you. Can we not have both? Can you not think about it and pray about it and send out good energies to the families who are grieving and the friends who are grieving and also call for answers? Of course you can. So calm down, liberals, calm down. Meanwhile, the headline, you knew this was going to happen. Fear pervades Tennessee's trans community amid focus on Nashville shooter's gender identity. Police say Audrey Hale, who was killed by responding officers, shot and killed 3 9-year-olds and 3 staffers. Though police have said there is no known motive right now, some conservatives have blamed the shooting on the suspect's gender identity. No, who? No, we have not. Certainly not here in the state of Tennessee. No, we have not. We've blamed the shooting on the shooter. Now, are we asking questions? Are we asking questions about transgenderism and if that could have led to her picking up those guns? There was a time that the mental health community believed that transgenderism was a mental illness. They may not have used the terms I'm using right now, but they believed it was a mental illness. I'm getting word from some professionals that have said it in studies that there is a high number of those in the trans community who are autistic. Although high functioning, they are autistic in that community, which could then lend itself to some mental health issues. That's what the studies are showing. And by the way, when I say this out loud, I am not hating the trans community. I'm not hating the autistic community. I'm not hating anything except for a shooting that happened on Monday. I'm hating that instead of getting the right help, this shooter dove into a black hole of evil and took her pain to an finite place. Finite being she wasn't coming back from this. She made a decision she was going to die on Monday. She knew she would die if she went to his school and started shooting. Real quick before I get to this transgender, one of the things that I noticed, because some have said that she wanted to commit mass casualties. I don't know about that. I know that she wanted to die. She said that. But mass casualties, you define mass. Do you know in the surveillance video, and this is just me, I'm not an expert, nothing like that, but I noticed something when she drove up onto the campus of Covenant School in that church, the Presbyterian church there. She drove up to the campus and they released the surveillance video of that. And she ended up parking her car and she ended up sitting in her car for a few minutes. Do you know what I noticed off to the side of the parking lot? I noticed a playground full of children. So I'm asking out loud, if she wanted mass carnage, I wonder why she didn't. Thank God she didn't. Thank God above. Now I might cry. Thank God above that she didn't. But why didn't she? Because she could have taken out a lot of kids on that playground. Those kids may have been the ones that ran to the woods. Thank God they did. It could have been that she was so focused on her plan, on her mission, that she didn't even see those kids to the side. Because that takes, I would think, great focus when your mission is to die. Back to the, give me a minute. Back to the transgender community and this story from NBC News that is kind of changing the narrative here. Or at least they're trying to change the narrative. Within 10 minutes of police saying that the suspect was transgender, and by the way, again, they were, I know, uncomfortable with even saying it, Metro Police, simply because they didn't want to start on this political narrative BS. And they knew it would happen, and sure enough, here we are. Within 10 minutes of police saying the suspect was transgender, the hashtag trans terrorism began to trend on Twitter. Okay. Republican lawmakers, including Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio and conservative firebrand Representative Margie Taylor Greene of Georgia, insinuated in social media posts that the shooter's gender identity played a role in the shooting. Guys, it could have. And I'm not saying that in hate. I'm just saying it could have. By Tuesday morning, the cover of the Rupert Murdoch-owned New York Post read, "Transgender Killer Targets Christian School." Can you tell me what's not factual about that headline? We want to talk about facts And look, I hate the headline from NBC News, but perhaps fear is pervading Tennessee's trans community. I don't dismiss that. I dismiss as to why fear is pervading the trans community. Because it's not us who have told you that you're not loved. It's not us that have told you that you're not welcome. The liberals are trying to make you think that we believe that. It's the liberal people with an agenda who want to destroy any kind of conservative ideology. They're the ones trying to make you think that we hate you and we don't. That's where it's coming from, not us. And that's the truth. Kim Spoon, who is a trans activist based in Knoxville, told NBC News, "We are terrified for the LGBTQ community here. More blood's going to be shed, and it's not going to be shed in a school." All right, let's stop right there. She's saying something very similar to what former President Donald Trump said when he was talking about the possibility of being indicted in this so-called hush money scheme. Did he not? And you had Democrat lawmakers coming after him when he said something to the effect of, I don't have the quote in front of me, that more people, something, Mac, do me a favor. If you can look up that line from Donald Trump, something to the effect of more people may die, or you're going to see people, death and destruction. That's it. Thank you. Death and destruction. You're going to see death and destruction if this happens. So what's the difference between Donald Trump saying that and this transgendered activist saying that? What's the difference? Because this tells me that the transgender, the way she put it, the transgender community is going to get angry and going to come after people. I don't believe so. I think the transgenderism may have played a role in this because of her mental health. She wasn't, to my knowledge, we have to see the manifesto, right? But there's been no indication, at least from law enforcement, that she was angry at this school because she was a transgender. It seems that she was angry, according to Police Chief John Drake. In some of his interviews, she was angry at having to go to that school, possibly. That's a long grudge to hold. And by the way, that's one thing I've pointed out in these last couple days. It's a long grudge to hold. But we have learned that people who have autism, who are high-functioning autistic, who have Asperger's, do get obsessed with things and can't let it go. They're mentally unable to get past some obsessions, and they hold on to it. They don't let it go. So that could then play into this. Again, that's a long grudge to hold. Most people don't hold those grudges that long. But if you are autistic, that could be why. And again, my words are not words in hate. I'm just telling you what studies have shown. Just trying to give you some facts here. Denise Sadler, a drag performer who is transgender, said she had already hired 4 armed guards before Monday's shooting to secure a drag show she's hosting at a gay bar in Nashville this weekend. I'm not sure why. I don't know if she has been threatened, but it's not coming from us. The normal, level-headed people who don't care if you're performing a drag show. We just don't want you doing it in front of children if it is sexually explicit. And by the way, you can legally perform a drag show in Nashville and anywhere else in Tennessee, unless it's sexually explicit.
A vigil is planned tonight for the 6 victims of Monday's tragedy. I'll have details and words of support from the former principal of Columbine High School. I'm Jay Harper on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Jay. It is 11:24. Looking forward to that newscast coming up at 11:30 this morning. So I don't know how much everyone has stayed in touch with what's happening, but I believe at this point we need to call on the Nashville Police Department, who has been phenomenal since they're phenomenal anyway. I'm a big fan of Metro Nashville Police. I got some friends with the Metro Nashville Police Department and other law enforcement agencies. We love you, and we are commending you 100%. But at this point, now we're asking, when are we going to see the manifesto? And not because we want to make this shooter famous. And I'm trying, there are times I have to call her by name, and I'm trying very hard today. I heard some of your requests yesterday, and I'm trying not to say her name. The same with our news department. They're trying hard not to say her name. It's a shooter. I'm not even saying transgender shooter every time. I'm just saying shooter. She was a shooter. But we do need to see this manifesto. It's not even morbid curiosity either. It's trying to bring closure to this situation, trying to answer some of the questions as to why. Maybe if some of us get to see, or all of us get to see, the writings of someone obviously mentally ill, we could maybe recognize some signs if someone was writing some sort of manifesto. I mean, if she was suffering from autism, could she also be bipolar? I know in the past, there are lots of studies about those who are, they used to call it manic depressive, because those who are bipolar without medication to stabilize, they go on these really, really, really crazy highs. And there's a moment in between these things where the people with bipolar disorder are extremely sharp. They get a lot done. They do a lot of creative, wonderful things. And then it crosses the edge into some sort of dysphoria, some sort of manicness. Some of them don't sleep for days. Write. And none of it makes any sense. Very rapid fire. I probably shouldn't say it, but there's a stalker in my life. And that's this is what he does. He'll fire off emails that, if they were printed out, would be 28 pages long. You can't read it. You can't keep up with it. That's manic. And then you go into the other side of it, and you are in a deep, dark place. So did this shooter suffer from those kinds of episodes, or was it more on an Asperger's side of things? We don't know. And I think we could learn more about that if we as the public were to be able to see the manifesto. So I'm calling for the Metro Nashville Police Department for them to post it. Again, not to make her famous. Nobody's going to make any money off of this. But maybe for us to understand, maybe first release it to the families of the victims, and then release it to us. If you want to be, courteous, maybe that's the word, so that they could maybe find some answers why. Do another press conference today and let us know more about what's in there, and put aside the woke ideology and just tell us the truth. Was she still mourning the loss of a romantic partner? We're now seeing some more information that from teachers and whatnot. I think it's on the Daily Mail. In fact, I'll pull it up here in just a second, where she every year in school apparently dressed up as a transgender character. I got to find that. As a transgender character from Juno. I don't know that movie, so I don't know. So she struggled with this idea of being a guy. She wanted to be a guy, I guess, for years and years. So for Spirit Week, maybe she dressed up as this character. I'll have to find the article, and I'll bring that to you. There's going to be a vigil tonight. I encourage you to go and stand with our community as we all grieve. When you see the leaders of our community, ask them, please release the manifesto. Post it on socials. Tag our Nashville leaders and say, we want to see it. It's time to release it. You've had time to go through it. Now it's time for us to see it. Do it respectfully. And I'm calling on the mayor and other city council members. Let's not bring political speak to tonight's vigil, please. Let's focus on those who were brutally murdered on Monday. It's 11:30. I'm Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 11:31. Good morning. I'm Jay Harper. Plenty of sunshine. We're up to 54 degrees. We'll have the weather for you in just a bit. Back in 1999, 2 gunmen opened fire at Columbine High School in Colorado, killing 30 and injuring many others. Former Columbine School principal Frank DeAngelis was once in the position that the Nashville community now finds itself in after Monday's tragedy at the Covenant School. DeAngelis spoke with News 2 to offer his words of support to Nashville and to say that the emotions many are feeling now can be confusing.
An entire community can go through it, but how people deal with it, they deal with it differently. And you're going to have some people that just feel they need to talk. You're going to have others say, I don't want to talk about it. The sooner I get back to doing what I was doing prior is going to help me heal. And you're going to have some people in between.
DeAngelis also adds that one of the things that's so difficult for many people is that they don't really even know what they need at this point. A vigil will take place tonight at Public Square Park to honor the victims of the Covenant School shooting. The event is scheduled for 5:30 tonight. Mayor John Cooper, Police Chief John Drake, and other leaders are expected to speak. That's the latest. Weather's next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
A Roth IRA versus a traditional IRA. Which one should we do? A lot of people struggle over this particular decision. And I'll just give you a couple tools to figure out what might be better for you. Think about it this way. Let's say if I had $1,000 that I was thinking about investing, that was income, $1,000 of income. With an IRA, let's say that you're in a 30% tax bracket. Let's say there is such a thing. And you want to put this money in an IRA. You're going to save $300 in taxes. Now, if you go post-tax with like a Roth IRA, this is how much goes into the Roth IRA. Now, let's say that later on down the road, we have this money and it didn't grow at all, just to keep the math really simple. And let's say that at some point in the future, you're in a lower tax bracket, because the way our tax system works is that your first income is taxed at a really low rate, and then you get up into higher rates, 10%, 12%, 22%, and so on and so forth. It gets higher. If you're earning income and you're at that particular tax rate up there, you might want to avoid that tax rate right now and take the income at a later point in time when you're in a lower average tax rate. Now let's say that you're in a 10% bracket down here when you pull the money. How much are you going to pay in taxes? 10% of $1,000 is $100. How much do you get to spend? $900. Well, even though I didn't have growth, I had growth because of the difference between my tax rate here and here. And that's the idea. That's one of the things that we look at. We look at Social Security taxation, income taxation, and a lot of factors that might drive you in a higher or lower brackets in the future. If you want to learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call or call 615-851-1950.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 11:36. I am Pamela Furr. Glad to have you with us today. 615-737-9986. We've got the Super Text. Wait, how? Super Text line. Is that what we call it?
That's it.
Super Text line open. Sorry.
Super Talk text line. It's
frustrated at my own dang self. You don't have to send me the messages saying, Pam, you're an idiot. I'm saying, Pam, you're an idiot. Anyway, we do have that open today, and I've been trying to respond to some of your comments and some of your text messages and whatnot. Some guys have the conversations that your listeners want to have, Pamela. I am having those conversations. And I have, for me personally, you want to know my opinion on what we should do to help negate any kind of opportunity in the future of a school shooting, a church shooting. We've had church shootings here. Now we've had a school shooting here. We've had a Waffle House shooting. What I think personally on college campuses and at schools, private or public, make them hardened targets. I think in this case, based on what John Drake has told us, Police Chief John Drake, Metro Nashville Police Department, the reason why this shooter didn't go to a second location is because it was a more hardened target. That right there tells you that prevents mass shootings. We have a case in point, very simple, right here, just 3 days ago. You don't have to do much more analysis than that. Hardened targets. What I think should happen at our public school system, I think money should be set aside, and maybe it already is, but money should be set aside to pay organizations like Defense Systems. And there are others. We are just really good friends with Defense Systems and Brink Fiddler. Hire companies like that to do an assessment of your facility to see how hardened it is. Take down the signs that say gun-free zone. Take them down. Because I think you're better off making a would-be killer question whether it is a hardened target or not. Take them down. It'll make you safer, in my opinion. Do an assessment at your businesses. Do an assessment at your school. Do an assessment at your churches, private and public. That's what I think should happen. I've also said this for years now. For years. So it's not the first time I've said this. This isn't new. But more and more every day, I come back to this. Banning guns is not the answer. You know why? Because we have guns. Banning guns is not the answer. There are hundreds of thousands of guns on the streets and in people's homes. Hundreds of thousands of guns that people own legally and have every right to. Our Constitution says so. I have a right to protect my home. I have a right to protect my person. If I had children, I have a right to protect my children. I also have a right to protect this country. I have a right to protect. The Constitution says so. Banning guns is not the answer, in my opinion. That doesn't make me evil. That doesn't make me crazy. It doesn't make me a hater. It makes me strong. I am a hardened target. I'm not out there screaming hateful things. I'm just telling you that hardened targets save lives. And then active shooter training saves lives. That's what I think. You're asking for my opinion? That's my opinion. Secondly, or thirdly, depending on how you're listing what I just said, we have to look at how we're dealing with mental illness in this country, and more specifically in the state of Tennessee. We have to. And what we are doing now, or what the medical profession is doing. And we have to get away from woke speak. We have to. We cannot be afraid to have the hard conversations about mental health. And we cannot be afraid of offending somebody with those hard conversations. There's a way to have those conversations without hating anybody. There's a way to have those conversations without getting angry and belligerent and unreasonable and irrational. So when transgender activists who are saying that fear is pervading Nashville's trans community, it is an irrational response, in my opinion, with all due respect. From NBC News, Denise Sadler, a drag performer, I told you this a few minutes ago, is going to have a show here in Nashville this weekend. And she says, or he, I'm not really sure, that she had already hired 4 armed guards even before Monday's shooting to secure a drag show she's hosting at a gay bar in Nashville this weekend. I don't know which one. Can I tell you, I've been to gay bars in Nashville. There's a great one. Tribe is the one. Tribe is the one I've been to. They're right next door to one another. It's a great bar. Great music. The martinis are fantastic. And I've never seen any hate, even from straight people, against people in that bar. It's been years since I've gone, but it's a great one. She says, following the anti-trans rhetoric spawned by the shooting, Sadler says she's now planning to hire 8 armed guards. No one's coming after you, Denise. The Republicans don't hate you. They may hate your lifestyle. I'll give you that. They might. There's quite a few in Nashville. They may hate, from a religious standpoint, your lifestyle. They have a right to do that. Some of them might even hate you. I don't know that there is a huge contingent of people who want you to die. So let's that kind of rhetoric, what you're saying is what's fueling the fire. John Drake said a motive for the shooting was still unknown, but his response when asked if Hale's identity was connected to the motive left the door open to speculation. He said there's some theory to that. We're investigating all the leads. According to this article, it's unclear how police knew that the suspect was transgender because the suspect said, "I'm transgender." That's how. Social media postings and the like. LinkedIn profile wanted to be referred to as Aiden. That's how. Trans men are assigned female at birth, identify as men, while trans women are assigned male at birth and identify as... We know all of this. When asked Monday whether Hale was a trans man or trans woman, Drake said woman. Now, I think Drake misspoke. That's because he was trying to, in my opinion, trying to be so careful not to offend somebody because he didn't want to be thrown then into the woke conversations and the rhetoric that's out there on social media. And I get that. We got to stop being fearful of the woke. Bill Campbell, the headmaster of the Covenant School from 2004 to 2008, said Hale attended the school as a child in 2005 and 2006 and identified as female during that time. As an adult, though, it appears Hale may not have identified as a female. As I just told you, the LinkedIn page which has since been removed, states that Hale used he and him, or at least wanted that. A friend of Hale's said Hale messaged her shortly before the shooting and signed the message Audrey Aiden, using Hale's given name along with a traditionally male name. The acting president of Tri-Cities Transgender, a trans-led support and advocacy group based in Johnson City, said her initial reaction to the news was the suspect was that the suspect was transgender was fear. I knew that as soon as anyone mentioned that, it was immediately going to become the center focus. It's not the center focus. You're making it the center focus. That's why I'm reading you this article. This is why I'm talking about this article. You're making it the center focus. We are not. The only reason why we bring it up is to look to see if that was the reason for or contributed to what happened on Monday. But it is not the focus. The focus is a very troubled woman. Let me just go a step further. An evil woman decided she wanted to die by cop. And the way to do that for her was to go after an elementary school that she attended in the past. Target it, and the police will come after her, and they will take her down. She knew it, and she was right. That's what happened. That's the focus. It's 11:48. I'll go ahead and take a break here. More to come. We'll check in with Matt Murphy in just a moment to find out what he's got coming up in the 12 o'clock hour for the Matt Murphy Show. Stick around. I am Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 11:55. I am Pamela Furr on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As we wrap up this portion of the broadcast day, I'm repeating Matt because Matt likes to say the broadcast day, like in the old-fashioned way. By the way, are y'all laughing at me?
No, I'm laughing at Maury. Maury turned on my mic today.
Belle is laughing. No. Now you're laughing. I feel paranoid. Y'all laughing at me.
I got the business yesterday for not turning on my own mic.
Oh, did you?
And so today I've now successfully trained your producer, Matt Moore, to turn it on for me.
Yeah. Because you can't do it. Because it's impossible.
That's such a boy thing to do, by the way. Guys that have been married, you'll learn this, McMorry, when you
taking notes.
When you finally propose to your beautiful, lovely girlfriend.
Yeah.
That if you agree to do things and then do them really poorly.
Oh, no, don't take this advice. Don't do it. I know what he's going to say. Do not listen to him.
She will just take over and go, no, you'll ruin that. I'll do it, especially in the kitchen. Especially in the kitchen. Wash dishes, but wash them really badly.
This has always been a relationship issue with me because I know men do that.
It's like advanced gaslighting.
Don't you dare. I know you know how to do this. You need to do this. Don't pretend that you're bad at it.
I am just a simple caveman.
Yeah.
You just do it so much better.
Yeah. That flies all over me because I know the game.
Erica calls it being caveman lawyer. There's a great bit
that's funny.
Years ago on Saturday Night Live that Phil Hartman did called Caveman Lawyer.
Yes.
I am but a simple cave. He's like talking to the jury. I don't understand your ways.
I call it man's disease. That and when they yes dear you, and haven't heard a dang word you've said.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
I have learned that one already.
Is your man's disease coming to surface? Do I need to get you a pill? And they'll go, yes, dear. When you
said that, it's like, okay.
Yep. Yeah.
See, I learned. It's just so sad. I mean, I love you, Ma. My grandmother she was a tree talker, and I think that's where I learned it from, right? Mm-hmm. So it would take her about, 4 hours to tell a 5-minute story.
All right. Yes, it happens.
Mm-hmm. And so I learned the art of not listening and listening.
All you have to do is quote the last few words of what she said.
And then ask a question. So it's really, if you're like this is the way she would tell
I know this game.
Yeah. Here's her stories, right? This is my grandma.
And we have 2 minutes, so you better hurry.
Here's my grandma. Well, we used to feed we feed the dogs at about 5 o'clock. We used to feed them at 4:30, but then I realized that there were some other dogs down the street. You know those dogs down the street? The neighbors moved about 5. Yeah, and suddenly we're talking about.
We're not even on that.
She always gets back.
There's a video to watch. Here, let me encourage you to watch the video about the nail in the head. So it's a woman with a nail in her head.
I think the problem
trying to describe what the problem is, and the guy says,
about the nail.
I think it's the nail in your head. And she says, no, it's not about the nail.
Have you seen this video?
No.
Watch this video.
Oh, it's so good.
That is absolutely relationships between men and women. We didn't even get to what you're talking about coming up at noon, but
just listen. It's going to be great.
Coming up next.
Yeah.